discuss few more Selenium interview questions. So let's get started. So first question that is commonly asked is how to fail a TestNG test if it does not get executed within a specified time. So to fail a test case in TestNG, if it does not get executed within a specified time, you can basically utilize TestNG's timeout attribute along with a custom assertion or verification mechanism. A timeout attribute allows you to specify the maximum time duration in milliseconds for which a test method is allowed to execute. Now, if the test method exceeds that duration, TestNG will automatically mark the test case as failed. So we'll see how it works. Now, some of the considerations can be like ensure that the timeout value is set appropriately based on the expected duration of the test method execution. And if using TestNG's timeout attribute, TestNG will handle the timeout automatically and mark the test case as failed. Now, if implementing custom assertion, make sure that include proper logging or messaging to indicate that the reason of the test failure. So, by implementing one of these approach as mentioned, using TestNG's timeout attribute or custom assertion or verification, you can basically ensure that TestNG tests fail if they do not get expected, if they do not get executed within the specified time duration, helping in detection and addressing showing or hanging tests. Okay. Next question that is commonly asked is how to print a web table data in Java collection, okay, using hash map. So this is very uncommon question, but normally they will ask, like they will give you a web table, okay, and then they will ask you to print the table elements using Java collection hash map. So to make sure that it works, you can basically initialize the WebDriver and navigate to the target page, locate the web table, iterate through rows and columns of the table to extract the data and store the data in a hash map. So now some of the assumption can be like example assumes that the table first row contains headers, obviously, and then the subsequent rows contains data. So headers in table will basically use a tag th, and for column data we use td, and modifications can be like you might need to modify the code to handle tables with complex structure, okay, and appropriate exception handling also need to be added to make sure that the code can deal with dynamic or complex web tables. So we'll see how it works at the end of this session. Next is how will you find broken links in Selenium. So this is very common question in screening session. So you might see in the technical round 1 discussion, they will ask you like how will you find the links are broken in Selenium. So this is like just normally set up the Chrome driver, initialize the web driver and navigate to the target web page, and then collect all links. So usually the anchor tag or a tag is a tag name that represents to all the links in the page, in the web page. Now once you get the links in the web page, you can basically send a HTTP request, okay, or HTTP URL connection to check the response and status code, okay, and then if the status code is not 200, or if it's something else, let's say 404 or 500, then you can comfortably conclude that they are broken links, okay. So this is the way it normally works. Like broken links, if it's a valid link it should be 200, if it's not a valid link it's 400, 500. Now we have to check like performance, like check all the links can be showing the page, can be slowing the page with many links, and we can also check like robustness. We need to add more sophisticated error handling as needed, especially for network related exceptions. And So let's see, friends, how does it works in terms of code. Okay, so let's move to the editor. So first create a test method. Let's say public void test method. Okay, should be camel casing, and then I'll annotate it test for test ng. So I'll mention like timeout. This is a test ng inbuilt annotation. We can give a timeout that this test should time out within 500 milliseconds or 5 seconds. We can do that, and for that we can write a code like can give like we can take a system time, and we can give start time and end time of the execution. So I need to check like what is elapsed time. So elapsed time will be start time minus end time minus start time. Now I'll put a condition. So I'll first instantiate the WebDriver manager .driver.setup, and then I'll say like WebDriver manager WebDriver driver is equal to new Chrome driver. Okay, then we just instantiate the get method, initialize the get method. Okay, and then proceed to it. So now, okay, as I mentioned, the timeout I'm given is 5,000 milliseconds, right? Now I put a condition like if my elapsed time, which is this one, is greater than timeout, is a condition I'm giving, then I should say like throw new assertion error. So that's how it will throw an assertion error and it will time out. So I can mention like execution. So here, as I mentioned, I'll use inbuilt annotation 5000 milliseconds, and if suppose the page is not loading in 5000 milliseconds, then this will execute this condition like elapsed time is let's say elapsed time is more than 5000 milliseconds or 5 seconds, then it will throw an assistant time error. And that's how you can basically check like how to fail a test case in TestNG. Okay, now so we have discussed like using inbuilt timeout annotation and also using assertion error. So that's one way. Next is how to print a web table using hash map. So we can just so for that we can just create a hash map function. So public static map. So we can write a map basically and string. So I can say like extract table data. This is a custom function which I'm writing to extract table data from the web table. So I can say like, so I'll basically use the web element argument, which I can, okay, let's keep it like this for the moment. So I can I'll create a map object string, okay, and then let's say I want the rows and headers. Okay, so for rows I'll create a row object for map and then new hash map. Okay. Similarly for headers I'll create another so here I've created a let's say I wanted data, so I create a data object to retrieve the web element table values, and then I will create a list. So rows is equal to table dot find elements. Okay, by dot tag name. This is very basic level we have discussed earlier, like find elements we have discussed earlier. So we can just say r. Tr is the tag name for rows in table, and similarly we can just mention one more for web elements, and then header you can just say table dot we can do like this. We can say like we'll call the rows object and then get 0. We can just save, and then we can say find elements by tag name, and then we can just mention th. So first we'll find the rows. So this includes the header row also, and then we'll call the this row object and find the elements which is having th. It is th header tag. So for table I'll pass on argument which is web element, okay, table. So this web element table I'll get it from the driver. Okay, driver will provide me this, and next is now there will be so many elements in table, so many rows and so many columns. So we have to create a for loop. So for int I is equal to 1, and then I less than rows dot size. Okay, and then we can say like I plus plus, so it's like a for loop, and then we can say like how many cells are there in the rows, we can find that. So we can just say list with element. Okay, you can say something like cells, and then we can say rows dot get I dot find elements. So find elements, and then by dot tag name. Okay, PD. So PD is the number of columns in table. So once we find the number of rows, then we'll use this row object to find number of header tag names, and then using this we'll use this row object to again find number of columns tag names td. Okay, now to find the number of now basically to find the number of headers, we need to create one more for loop. So this for every rows we have to iterate between the columns also, right? So for that we need one more for loop basically. So int j is equal to 0, and then j less than can say headers dot size, and then we can say something like j plus plus. Now we'll get the header element names or table column names. So we can say something like headers dot string header, then we can just say, one second, I'll make it headers. Headers dot get 0, make it headers also, dot it won't be 0, it will be j get j, and then get text. So this will give me the column names basically, and we just say string cell text. I'll say cells. So this cell object which I created, I'll be calling them to get j dot text. Okay. That's how we can get the cell names, cell values, and the header names. Now my next task will be to add these values into the map object. Okay, so we can just say data dot put, then we can say header, and then cell text. So this map object which I have created, it is now having the header names and cell text names. Okay, now our main function is written. Now we can basically use this function to call in the driver object. So we can basically create the function, create the steps for automation. So we can say like web element table is equal to driver dot find element by dot id. Then we can just say table underscore id, and then you can just create a map object string. Then we can just say table data, and then this here I will call my function here. Then table, this table I am passing with table. So now that is done. So this object will be getting the number of headers names and number of cell names it will be getting. Now I have to print it, the number of cell names and number of header names. For that I will create and one more for loop map dot entry. Okay, just like the way we print the hash map, right? We can just do like this. Same concept we can use here also. Okay. Entry table data dot entry set, we can use that this. So okay, let's see. So now we can print it like entry dot get e, and then we can say like entry dot get value. Okay. Okay, so we've moved the equal sign, so now it's perfectly fine, and this will print me the hash map keys and the values. Okay, so keys means like header and the values, okay, and cell name and the cell values. So then we can basically say driver dot quit. So now once I we use extract table data, so I use extract table data. Now if I find now I'll create a simple for loop to print the map entry and entry set, entry to print the map get keys and key values. So now this will basically print the number of header keys and its values and number of cell keys and its values. And once that is done, we can just say driver dot activity. Okay, that's how it basically works. So I'll explain the things. First, I'm creating extract table data. Just you can create any function that will iterate between the tables, rows, and table header. And then once that is done, we have to iterate to find. We have to create a for loop to find the number of row tables, number of table columns. And then once that is done, we have to create one more for loop to find the value of each header names and cell text. And once that is done, we can just add the header names and cell text names in the map object, and then we can call this function into the hash map to print the values of the keys, cell names, cell text, and headers. That's how we can basically automate the web table using hash map. Okay, so next we'll see like how to find the broken links, in the Selenium So friends, just to explain here, what I have written is I have created a custom function to extract the table data, and I've given the web table value, okay, argument. So I've created a map object, and I'm using that. I'm basically created a list to find the elements of table rows, and also a list to find the elements of the header. Okay, th belongs to header and tr belongs to the rows. Okay, now there will be so many rows, like multiple rows. So to find the elements of, to find the columns, to find the cells, we need to create a for loop. Okay, so now I am using this row object to find the size of the web table, like how many rows are there in the web table, and I'm iterating every rows to find the total number of columns. Columns belongs to tag name td. Once I find the columns, I have to find the values in the columns, like, so I have to create one more for loop that will iterate between in the columns to find like how many like what is the name of the, what is the text of in the header cells, and what is the text in the cells, to get the text for every columns. And once I find that, I will basically put the header and cell text into the map object, and then I'll call this function to my table data map object to basically print the values for the header and the values for the cells. This will basically print all the values, like how, what are the header names. There might be 5 or 6 header names in a column, right? And there may be column values. So this will print the values and the cell keys. okay, using hash map. That's how you can basically automate. So now we'll try to find like how to print the broken links, how to identify the broken links in the Selenium WebDriver. We will take a look on that code. Okay. So I'll just instantiate a main method, and what I'll do is that um, I'll just normally create WebDriver manager dot chrome driver dot setup. Okay. Next, I will do driver dot get WebDriver. Let's come to new Chrome driver. Okay, and then driver dot get. You can just go to any website. I'm not specifically mentioning a website name. I'm just mentioning sample.com. Okay. Next, you can just like I'll create a list, because website can have multiple tag names, right? So I want to find the anchor tags in a website. So I'll create list web element. Okay, and then just say links is equal to driver dot find elements by dot tag name anchor tags. I'll give anchor tags. So anchor tags are basically tags that finds the that resembles to the links in a web page. Okay. Now I have to iterate between the anchor tags. So I'll just create a small for loop, enhance for loop. Okay. And then string URL. I'll create a string object, and then I'll use this link, okay, web element link, to get the attribute. Okay, I have to get the attribute now that is known as href. Href is attribute that is that basically belongs to the web links, okay, in the web page. So we have to get the href attribute. Now here I want to put a condition like if URL, okay, is not equal to null. So I'm assuming that URL exists, okay, and then I am also assuming like URL is empty, which is false. So I'm assuming that URL is not null, and I'm also assuming that URL is not empty. Okay. So what should happen? That means URL exists. I'm assuming that. Then what happens? So I'll use so for that I will create one function. So here I'll call my custom functions. Okay. For that, and then I'll print driver dot quit. So this is the main code, but to make sure that URL is valid or not, we have to create a custom function to check whether it is links are valid or not. So for that, we will create one custom function called public static void check link. Okay, and then I will pass that URL. So I have to basically pass the URL. Okay, to make sure that the URLs are valid or not. So I'll call this function here, and then I'll say URL. That's how it should be. So I have to pass one more argument here, URL, and then I will create a URL object. Okay, so you can see java.net provides a URL package. We have to use that. then okay, so this should be handled. So I have to add the exception in the method signature. You can say malformed URL exception. This is the exception where it throws normally, so we have to handle that. Now we have to use HTTP URL connection that is also provided by java.net package. It normally is used to check the get and post response of a API, okay, or a web service. So we should be using that. Okay, then so I'll basically use links dot open connection. So this is the way we should be using the links object to open the connection. Okay, now it's showing a red flag, so we have to see like what is the issue here. Okay, HTTP URL connection. So it's basically it's a abstract class, and I think we need to typecast it. So let's see. So here also you have to put malformed interaction, malformed URL exception. Then sorry guys, I should not be this is, it should be semicolon here. Now I have to put again method signature IO exception. So this is done. Now next step is I have to use HTTP, this object I'll be using the parameters here. So like I'll use something called as set. So I'll use something called as set connection timeout. So here I am giving it because I want to wait for a specified amount of time to ensure that links are responding. If it doesn't respond, it will time out, and that we make sure that it's not a valid URL. So 300 milliseconds I'm giving, that means it's about 3 seconds you wait. That's more than enough to make sure that the URL is valid. And now I'll use this to connect. So that's how I'll be using to connect to these URLs. And now I'm just creating a if condition like HTTP URL connection dot get response code. So we know that every URLs normally has a response code, like HTTP methods normally HTTP like methods get or post or put, delete. So everything provides as a status code, right? 200, 404, 500. So here also we have to find like response code, and my expectation is response will be valid. So 200 is a valid response. Okay. Now I'll just say, so my code is written, so I just need to print out like this URL. Okay, is a valid link, valid link. Okay, and the status code is okay. So this will give me the status code whether it's 200 or 400. Similarly, I'll give a else condition. So I will just I'll say is invalid link and the status code is this. So now we have to handle this. So now this is the way we should be doing, friends. So now here, as soon as I get the URLs, so I'll be invoking this method. Okay, this will come here and invoke every URL having href tag, and then it will basically try to get the response code from for every URLs, and if any URL is not fetching 200, it will be treated as a broken link. Okay, then finally once all the URLs are checked, we can just say driver.quit, and this is how we can basically know like how many links are broken links in a Selenium WebDriver based on the HTTP response code. So thank you very much, friends, for this session. I hope this session was informative. If you like if you like it, please subscribe to my channel and hit the like button. Thank you very much.